Hello, listeners. My name is Donna and I am a board-certified psychiatric and family nurse practitioner. Welcome to the Brighten Up podcast, where we pull up the shades and shine the light on mental health topics both affecting and improving the lives of families. Thank you for tuning in to today's Brighten Up podcast episode to discuss the You Are Not Alone, aka YANA, Wellness Drop-In Centers in Sarasota, Florida. Please join me in welcoming Katie Booth, Operations Manager at the National Alliance on Mental Illness, otherwise known as NAMI, for Sarasota and Manatee counties. Katie is a passionate advocate for mental health, disability rights, and community building. With a background in behavioral health care and pursuing a dual master's degree in public administration, Katie is dedicated to making a positive impact in her community. As operations manager at NAMI, Sarasota, and Manatee counties, Katie routinely oversees program contracts, vendor relations, fundraising projects, and manages a team of dedicated volunteers. Katie is a firm believer in the power of empathy and communication in driving social change. Katie, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for just even reaching out about this. I'm really looking forward to doing it.
September, as many of you may or may not know, is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And I cannot think of a better message or a better conversation to have about suicide other than talking about You Are Not Alone, the concept and the Wellness Center. Before we discuss the You Are Not Alone YANA Wellness Centers of Sarasota, I would like to first touch on the most recent trends surrounding current statistics for suicide. According to new data from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the suicide rate in the United States recently reached its highest peak since 1941. Between 2011 and 2022, the suicide rate has increased by 16%, with a record high of close to 50,000 suicide deaths. Studies have shown some factors contributing to this increase have been underdiagnosis of mental health conditions, structural barriers to care, as well as stereotypes and discrimination associated with poor mental health. These factors, joined with different levels of access to mental health services, depending on where one may live, particularly if they live in a rural or underserved area, have all contributed to this steady increase. So, Katie, I'll start with my first question to you. With the increase in deaths due to suicide, the National Institute of Mental Health reporting 1 in 5 U.S. adults and 49.5% of adolescents, ages 13 to 18, are or have experienced some form of mental illness in 2022, the idea of creating wellness centers to support individuals struggling with their mental health has never been more important. Can you share, please, with our listeners how the need for YANA Wellness Centers in Sarasota County was identified, your observations in the community, and talk a little bit more about the overall mission?
Yes, of course. So before it became the YANA Center, there was an organization in the community called Mental Health Community Centers providing a drop-in service program. Due to COVID, and when COVID had hit in 2020, a lot of those services had closed down. And in 2021, the program was no longer meeting the state requirements to have this community wellness center just due to the circumstances of what was happening in our country at the time. NAMI had learned about that and was really passionate about making sure to keep that community mental health center, as they felt that it was an essential part of our community. And so since 2021, NAMI, Sarasota, and Manatee counties has been overseeing the YANA Wellness Center, the one in Sarasota as well as in Venice, Florida. And with those observations, it's just been growing since then as far as what the needs are and continuing to look in the community. How can we use this space to be innovative with mental health services?
Very interesting. And it's great that you were able to reinvent the initial drop-in center in Abbott Bloom into YANA. What do you tell folks who drop in? What is their understanding of the mission of YANA?
So, with YANA, it's a safe, supportive space where people can come and receive non-clinical mental health services. So, we have peer staff, so people, a person with lived experience with mental health who have gone through training and certification are now able to help run the YANA Center in collaboration with our members, who we do believe are the experts of their own recovery. They come in knowing what needs they have, and we're just here to support them. And so, in collaboration with our members, we create our activities calendar, and we do that usually monthly. And we have a member advisory council that meets monthly as well, so that they can collaborate and come up with different groups and ideas, workshops, social outings, and just different types of events that all encompass what it means to be in recovery for mental health.
Sure. There are so many different angles and areas that can support mental health. And very often, unless you're working in the field day in and day out, you would never know. So it's wonderful to have people there really that have lived through their own mental health struggles and are able to support others in need of additional direction or support. What are appointments needed for individuals to participate in YANA? And is there a cap in regard to the process of how many folks can drop in during a given day? I think I read the hours are 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. Is there an appointment needed? Is there a screening process as far as providers in the community? Are they able to direct their patients there possibly for additional barrier of help and support?
Yes, providers are absolutely welcome to refer to our program. A referral is not necessary, though. Also, actually having a mental health diagnosis at all actually isn't part of the requirement. Someone would be able to self-identify if they said they felt that they were experiencing symptoms of depression. We would accept that as this is someone needing support. So it could be self-identify or the formal diagnosis. You don't necessarily need an appointment to come in. We do something called Welcome Wednesdays, which is an opportunity for like open enrollment. So folks could come by, they could get a tour, they could kind of check it out, see if this is something that they might want to be interested in, because with our program, we really want to make sure that this is a voluntary participation, as we know that folks typically do better in settings where they get to choose if this is the right thing for them. And so we have our Welcome Wednesdays, or they could call and make an appointment if they'd like, if they need a little more structure, but it's okay to just come in as well. And someone would be willing to assist them, show them around, and get the packet filled out. But once they go through that initial enrollment process, we call it, they would just be able to come in anytime. We just ask that they sign in so we know they're there. But other than that, that's pretty much it. It's a pretty low barrier as far as joining. We try to make it as simple as possible.
That's fantastic. And how many people roughly are utilizing the centers now in a given day or week? What are the stats?
Sure. So approximately at our Sarasota location, we're seeing anywhere from about 20 to 30 members a day. And with that, it can kind of be staggered throughout the day. So some folks come in the morning, some come in the afternoon, some pop in for a class, or some stay all day, and that's okay too. At our Venice location, we're averaging about 10. It's a little bit of a smaller location, but usually with this very regular membership down there. But it can fluctuate on any given day. If we're having a party, we'll see those numbers definitely go up because everybody loves a good grill out. And so that's a great way for us to just all get together.
That's fantastic. Yes, everybody is enticed by delicious food or a holiday celebration or birthday, whatever it is. So do you have support there as well for individuals struggling with, say, alcohol or drug addiction combined with their mental health, self-diagnosed or not, as well?
We do, yes. So we understand that with substance use and mental health, we understand it's hard to differentiate. As a peer myself, and with that being my background as well, we have incorporated additional groups into our programming. Like right now, we have a Dual Recoveries Anonymous group happening. So somebody who identifies with having what would be considered, those co-occurring disorders, they could find some community there. And if they're needing extra support, maybe more clinical substance use support, we could connect them with the right agency or an additional group just to provide more resources for them. But yes, everybody is welcome.
That's fantastic. And it's so wonderful to know that there's an open door with a population that so many deterrents really to taking that first step, and to have that opportunity to present on a Wednesday, learn more about the program, receive a calendar, and life-changing for so many individuals who may not otherwise begin that journey toward mental wellness in their own lives. As family members of individuals affected by mental illness are very affected by certain tendencies or the mental health of their loved ones, are they, is family education, are they included at the YANA Center as far as being part of their recovery, or providing them additional insight into what their loved one might be dealing with?
With NAMI's approach with mental health, we believe that the more support somebody has, the more successful that they'll be in their recovery. And so NAMI has a couple different signature programs that they teach that helps with education and support. So they have a NAMI family support group, as well as a NAMI family to family, which is an 8-week education-based class that educates families about their loved ones and help them learn how to navigate the system and how they might be able to best communicate with their loved one with mental health, kind of destigmatizing some of the stigma around it. And then for families that might have younger children, there is also a NAMI basics class, which was modeled off of the family to family model. I'm actually taking that class right now, and I could not recommend it more. And so families for children with children under the age of 22, with a lot of the youth that are experiencing mental health symptoms today. And with that, there's an additional program we have, our family peer support program, where they could be set up with a family peer. And if they have a youth that's wanting and willing, there's also youth peer specialists that could assist for our children and young adults.
Tremendous amount of resources, and so important. It's petrifying to families watching from the sidelines their child or loved one struggling with their mental health and feeling like there's nothing they can do to help. I think these classes are just incredible resources. In fact, I'm going to sign up for one myself, or some, just to become more informed of, what really the laws are, and how policies are trending or changing, and what's available. I know in my own experience, I've worked with some families where it's been difficult if they've had a child over the age of 18 who is not quite meeting the criteria for being a danger to themselves or anybody else, but clearly is not grounded and what I would say delusional, having fixed false beliefs, or borderline psychotic of hearing things or being given messages, things like that. And their hands are tied because they're not necessarily admitted. And then they're 18, so they have that free will, and it's really hard to navigate that. Can you please share with us how many You Are Not Alone centers are there nationwide, or are there any additional ones?
So from the research that I've done, the drop-in models are not as popular as I actually would have thought, but there are places that are doing it. And there's actually a couple other NAMIs that are doing drop-in related services. So I know in Chicago area, they have a drop-in model that seems to be very successful for them, as well as I know California has a lot of that type of model as well. I think that we are seeing an increase in Florida, even some local NAMI affiliates here where they're opening up. They might not call them drop-in model, but they're calling them like wellness recovery centers essentially.
Mhm.
And so I believe that they are offering similar types of services with maybe like the drop-in based mental health support where they could meet with a peer or participate in a wellness-based activity.
The need there is profound. And I think a lot of people will go where they feel comfortable. It seems to me with these current trends and statistics that a drop-in center in every community would be needed and well utilized. People had the opportunity and knew that that was available to them. That would be a tremendous benefit, just forming that sense of community and that shared experience of striving toward better mental health and learning some of the skills and techniques, and also participating in activities that we know do improve mental health, such as, art therapy, music therapy, exercise, things like that, learning about diet. More and more, research is, I'm sure you've heard, is really highlighting the importance of a healthy diet.
Yes, and with that, with the YANA Center, we've been able to collaborate with different partners who specialize in those things. So we've worked with All Face Food Bank, for example, to come in and provide nutrition and cooking classes for our members. So it's using the community resources that already exist and having a place where people, like you said, already feel comfortable coming, that they can get this additional education, but in a way that's fun, and they get like a fun snack with it as well, right? Who doesn't, like you said, who doesn't love a good meal with that? And I just wanted to mention as well, we are noticing that people are really in supportive of this drop-in model. We recently did receive funding to expand into Manatee County. So at this time, we're doing outreach for YANA-based activities, with that hopefully being the catalyst to eventually having a center in Manatee County.
That is phenomenal. And right now you're serving the population above 18. Is that going to also expand at some point for preteens or younger individuals?
So we do have a program called Youth Move Suncoast, and they serve ages 10 to 29. Usually when they do youth meetups at our drop-in center, they are working with ages like 10 to 17. We do have a program already in place with our youth peers that are providing what they might be called like limited services for a drop-in model, where they're meeting up monthly, twice a month at the center and having their own programming.
And this, just to go back as well, the cost for this,
All free.
I just wanted
Yes,
to highlight that because
absolutely.
another big barrier, obviously. It sounds to me like it's really in sync with an intensive outpatient program for mental health, where you would potentially go 3 days a week and needed some extra support for a few months as maybe medications were kicking in or life circumstances were changing, and really serves as a life raft, or potentially could for many folks.
I definitely can see that connection. Because we're non-clinical, I would never identify as that. It is similar in a way where, how we have the different levels of care and how people need different support at different times throughout their journey. And just knowing that if someone had recently been in the hospital, or they felt like they might be thinking about going into the hospital, that considering our program as a way to potentially mitigate that, if they didn't need to go to that next step. I think you've discussed those bridging the gaps. I really do feel like this program is essential for that, because someone might meet with their doctor once a month or a therapist once a week. What are they doing during those other times? They need that community support.
Definitely. I really am a firm believer, as somebody who helps people in need of medication, that medication is 1/3 of the management for mental health, and the other third is equipping yourself with tools to learn what brings you peace of mind, what activities can calm your mind, and the third being movement, diet, physical health, taking care of that as well. So having the opportunity to educate folks on that is fantastic. I remember in the 90s, during my initial nursing training in Rochester, New York, a couple of our clinicals were in community centers for mental health, like almost like it was like a house. And people would go there for the day, and we would sit and talk with the patients and play games or help make lunch. And they seem to have dropped off around that time. A lot of them were closed or not available anymore. Do you have any idea what happened around that time frame and why that was?
I can't speak for sure, but I do know that obviously funding and with different types of funding is sometimes it's a challenge to portray to certain stakeholders of why this program is of so much value, even though it's a non-clinical service. And I think sometimes that's a challenge when we're working with different funders on really showing the value of the program. As many programs, we all have measures and data and this but we do a lot of measurement around referrals, resources, and quality of life, but those numbers can't really capture what it's like to truly have someone who had no hope to then come in and feel like they belong and that they actually feel like they're doing okay and that they're going to make it. And then to turn around and to lead others and help others go through the same thing. I don't really think there's a measurement that can truly capture that. And so maybe that's why some centers might close for funding reasons or for other reasons. But just knowing that even though it is a free service that we provide, that how important it really is to the community.
Well, I believe health is our biggest asset. And if our mental health is struggling, it's very hard for anything else in life to line up. Making healthy physical decisions or your relationships. And I agree with you. It's not something that you can measure like a blood pressure or blood sugar level decreasing. It's more abstract, and I can understand how that presenting that as you're seeking funding can be a little bit more of a challenge. But certainly hope is something irreplaceable, really priceless. If you lose it and you need it, it's a lifeline to have these resources available. And I think that's being demonstrated in the news every day as well, with John Bon Jovi this past week, talking somebody off a bridge, literally, really
Yes,
bringing to life the Living on a Prayer song. So glad he was there to do that. Also, the incidents in school shootings. What is going on there? What's happening there?
absolutely. I just wanted to mention too, with all this, what was bringing up was just raising awareness around mental health conditions and that how much education, like as a society, that we still need to do. And with that, NAMI, Sarasota, and Manatee counties, every year we have our NAMI Walks event in the community to show there is still a need to end stigma in our community around mental health and to make sure people have access to services.
When is that walk?
Our walk is October 5th at 8 a.m. It's going to be at Payne Park in Sarasota, Florida. It's a free event. It's a non-competitive walk, but there will be community vendors, tables. We have food trucks, music. We'll have jazzercise warm up, yoga cool down, and we're just really excited to be out there in collaboration with all of our community partners and sponsors to continue to raise awareness for mental health.
I'll be there.
Yeah, so you can go to NAMI-SarasotaManatee.org, and on the very top of our website, we have a banner with our walks information, and you can click that, and that will take you to the registration site. It is free to register, to make a team, or to sign up as a participant. It's a pretty simple process, but if somebody needed support, they could feel free to reach out, and we'd be happy to walk them through how to get signed up.
I love your message about the continued need to break down stigma. We've gotten a lot better, but definitely it's still there. And even amongst individuals seeking out care, they hold very big bats to themselves. They're very hard on themselves. I should be able to shake this. Why am I like this? And, it digs a little bit of a deeper hole. It's not an inner chess game that you have to win or you're weak if you don't. It's not a character flaw. Very often it's a chemical hereditary type of predisposition that sometimes, may need medication for a short period of time only, or may need it more for a longer period of time. Getting that message out there and empowering people or making people feel comfortable being open and discussing that in a safe and healthy manner is so important. Can you share with us some success stories? A couple of people that have come through the center and maybe they're peer supporters now, or how they have been touched by the program in a positive way.
Sure. I'd like to share about one of our members who I met my first day volunteering at NAMI. She was actually volunteering at one of our youth meetups at the time, and I could just tell she was so passionate about mental health. And she had been utilizing the services of the previous organization that was running it. And so she was really able to help us learn a lot about what to do with the program, right? Because we're coming in and some members had already been receiving services, and we wanted to make sure that they felt like they were included when we were creating this program. And so this individual, with her ups and downs, with her mental health and having some physical health challenges as well, to wanting to really get involved and coming in often and being that additional support for people. And now today she helps lead a group. So one of our groups at our center is we do flower arrangements, supported by Trader Joe's does flower donations for us, and we're able to make flower arrangements for the center. And so she's gotten to a point now where she goes, she picks up the flowers, she brings them there, and she even leads the group and helps get the flowers for the center. And on Fridays, everybody knows it's flower day, and it's just it creates this whole sense of just love and belonging and feeling loved, as far as, being able to take home a bouquet of flowers that some people might not otherwise have an opportunity for. So she's definitely a success. She's actually helping with our walks committee now. And she also serves on our member advisory council as outreach chair. And so I would say she is a huge success, but it really depends on what the members need when they come in, when they sign up. Certain folks need different things. Sometimes people need housing. And with that, being a major challenge in somebody's life, connecting them to a housing resource or having them continue to come to our center while they might be experiencing homelessness until they can find housing has been possible for some of our members. We have some good partners like Castle and Second Heart Homes that we know we can call when we have members who might have those challenges as well.
Very nice. And to bridge that time in one's life where maybe they are seeking housing or homeless and have some place to go, that there are people on their side directing them toward resources and having food available and just that encouragement. In my opinion, with the flower arrangement, Trader Joe's hands down has the most beautiful flowers out of all the stores I go to. I mean, they are just phenomenal. And what a blanket of love to arrange something beautiful and take it home and instill hope for people participating in that. That is wonderful, wonderful. As I've mentioned in my experience with working with patients in mental health, the trends for providing care for individuals struggling with their mental health has become somewhat of an all or nothing approach for patients in crisis or living with poor response to treatments, which over time greatly decreases their quality of life or desire to live. In my experience, it's really difficult to get added support in the hospital setting unless you present actively threatening to end your life. And for people not suicidal in the moment, but maybe in 2 hours, really struggling to keep their head above water, they are told to follow up with an outpatient primary care provider or psychiatric provider. Personally, as a medical provider that I've worked in different areas of medicine, medical and mental health, I correlate it to if somebody comes to the emergency room with appendicitis, we don't take out half the appendix, or we don't settle for lowering the blood pressure 15% and leave them still with high blood pressure, which might increase their risk for stroke, diabetes, a number of things. This is still different with mental health. I mean, we are getting better, but a lot of room for growth. So you, Katie, as a prominent leader for NAMI and a mental health advocate, how would you like to see or envision improved middle of the road mental health support in the next few years with centers like you've already created here, YANA, and also medication management? As we know, mental illness does not discriminate. So this is not just an inner city problem. This is a, higher socioeconomic problem. This is across the board.
I have a few thoughts. And first, what's coming up for me is, as an advocate and just speaking from what I've seen and what might work best for a clinical setting is definitely having more an integrated approach to care. That making sure with the continuum of care is that sometimes it feels that a lot of the doctors might be like siloed in a way, and like making sure that professionals are working more collaboratively with someone's health and really understanding like the whole health of someone. I know that we've come a long way and are doing that, but I do feel like there is more work to be done in understanding how, especially in the disability space, of knowing that somebody's physical health conditions could, they're having a flare, that could have, an increase in their mental health system. And, why is this person going to the hospital so much? And are they actually receiving the services that were appropriate in the first place? Like you were sharing, as far as instead of just kind of doing damage control for somebody's health, like how can we really get them into a peak health? Integrating care would help on a clinical side. For a non-clinical side, for peer side, where, is more my expertise, I would say educating the public really and knowing about the mental health conditions and letting people know that this isn't just a choice or that people aren't just being lazy. It's that this is an actual medical thing and that there is treatment available out there. And so with NAMI's education classes, they do a really great job with that. So continuing to promote that material that exists, but more spaces like YANA, like I said, expanding into counties that might not have these services. And maybe even, they have like respite services. That's not something we currently provide, but a non-clinical space where somebody could receive overnight care for a mental health condition, I believe is essential for our society as well. We're starting to see a few of those pop up in Florida. We don't have one locally here, so I would like to see respite-based mental health services that could be maybe that step in between a hospital setting where someone just might need some extra time and support from people who really understand what's happening.
Almost a mini retreat,
Yes,
almost like a night or
exactly.
two, just a timeout, a reset. That's a brilliant idea. And I agree with you with the integrative approach. It's very common feel that way. I believe as somebody, a mental health provider, I'm not actually combined with primary care providers. We do our best to try to connect when needed, but it's not always possible. So within the same system would be fantastic just to have our fingers on the pulse. Like, hey, I saw this person today. They're feeling better. Are they dropping? Are they working on healthier lifestyle changes to improve their blood pressure? And I think that would be more comprehensive and help patients feel more cared about, or maybe drive healthy change more efficiently. And I think that's something we're looking at. After COVID, most of us now, or a lot of us in mental health, are virtual. So that's siloed us a little bit more. So I think finding some ways to bridge that would be a good idea. A lot of good ideas, a lot of excitement in the future with how we can continue to help this population and improve them and empower them with tools and family members to become healthier systems and support these individuals. It's an exciting time, and I think a lot to launch from. And you have a really big job and sphere of influence in your role. What got you interested in mental health, or what drove you to this mission?
Essentially, I had my own set of challenges with mental health, experiencing mental health symptoms, as a teen, using substances to cope with that, self-medicating until it got to a point where it was an addiction. And so for that, I did need to receive MAT services for opioid use disorder, which eventually had led, because my untreated mental health, using that as a way to cope. So using MAT services and going through that, once I was able to end those services, I realized that I still needed mental health support. And so, going to therapy, working with the psychiatrist, I wanted to learn more. I wanted to know more about these conditions. I wanted to know what can I do to have a better life, because at the time I was also experiencing what had been like a domestic violence situation. So educating myself about that, how can I live a better lifestyle? So I chose to devote my time and energy to going back to school and getting my bachelor's degree in behavioral health and in gender studies. From there, when I was going through this with my schooling, I needed to do some volunteer hours, and that's when I picked NAMI. And that's when I really learned more, so much more, because I was doing the things. I was going to the therapist, I was seeing the psychiatrist, but something felt missing. Like I just didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I felt so different. And so when I was able to connect with NAMI and have that sense of community and really feel like there are other people who know what this feels like, that's when I was able to really blossom and grow in my recovery and to continue and to see, we've talked about all these systems change and things like that. And so that's why it's propelled me to do a graduate program, at a higher level, at a government level and a nonprofit management level, of saying, it's great to provide these direct services, but until there's policy change or funders know that they can support programs like this, that's where the real change comes. And so that's why I've decided to pursue it on that avenue to hopefully establish more services like this.
Your story is so inspirational. And I think, many of us who work in this field have had our own various experiences with our own, mental health and striving to improve on that. And I feel it's almost just meant to serve this population, and never really did meet a strong person with an easy pass. So I applaud you and congratulate you on what you're doing and how impactful you are.
Thank you.
Katie, how can our listeners participate, volunteer, or support YANA? What should our listeners do? Or if somebody is listening, we have listeners in a number of states, maybe was interested in developing a center in their own community. Do you have any recommendations, or can you provide us some information?
I would be happy to connect or collaborate with anyone that's interested in learning more or creating these services. I could maybe even put together a resource kit, but our NAMI website has a lot of really great resources already, as well as the information on how to get in touch with the center. Once again, that's NAMI Sarasota Manatee.org. And maybe it's modeling some groups after the activities that we already have. Not every group does flower arrangements, but that's something we've had a connection with, and maybe another program might find value in that as well. But we're always open to talking, discussing, connecting. Maybe we don't have the resource, but maybe we know of another agency that's working on a project that might fit. So please don't be afraid to reach out, because we're happy to help, happy to connect and chat about this. We're just so passionate about it and can always have these types of conversations.
Well, thank you so much for that. And we will certainly be posting the NAMI Sarasota website on the Brighten Up website if anybody would like to visit that and gather more information. And please do consider signing up for the NAMI Sarasota walk if you're in the area on October 5th. And I want to thank you again, Katie, for being here and for doing what you do. You're certainly standing tall as our motto at the Brighten Up podcast, as a sunflower, really leaning in toward the bright side of life and helping so many people do that as well. I hope you'll come back. I think there'll be lots of opportunity for further discussion on numerous topics. And it was wonderful to be with you today.
Oh, Donna, like I said, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in today, friends. We appreciate your time and attention and hope you can share this podcast with someone you love or care about. Until next time, remember to live on the bright side of life, like the sunflower who chooses to face the sun. Take care, everybody, and we'll catch you next time. You're so inspirational, and I love this. I don't know why. I just kind of had this idea implanted just to do this, like you did too. You know, I struggled with depression really probably since middle school, not really knowing what it was, and also some ADHD and then postpartum depression that really is like, wow,
Yes.
and just
Yeah, that's a whole thing in itself, really. Yeah.
Yeah. And having to learn about this. Am I a terrible person? What is wrong with me? I went through, just it's been a journey. It's been a theme for me, the majority of my life, like looking for that like that balance of what is going on neurologically and maybe environmentally, and what do I need to do to kind of be okay, so I get that. And not everybody, like, unless you're living through that or experience it, you don't really know. So,
Yeah.
and it's great.
Thank you for sharing that and being open about that. I know it's hard or I can't speak, but I'm sure as, working in the clinical field, it's very much like, this is how it is. And that's why I really value NAMI, because it's like, it does give a platform for people to share that, and just knowing that it is so powerful to know that, I've been there too. There's really, like I said, there's just, you can't put a number on it, on the value that it has.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I do share bits and pieces, even clinically, like with my patients, like if a kid has really bad ADD, and I'm like, look, you can't write a kid's story, because people with ADD actually are smart. They have to find other ways to do things. Mm-hmm. They develop a lot of grit. I'm a firm believer of, if you want to do something bad enough, you can do it. And it's nice to be able to encourage people on that. It's a privilege. It really is.